Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What is up, guys? Dave here from Metal Epidemic, back with another album review. And for this review, Duncan Kyle and I have been checking out the new album from Norwegian prog band Leprous. The band's new album, Aphilion, will be released on August 27th via Inside Out Music. So, album number 7 from Leprous. This one coming 2 years since the release of Pitfalls. This one was actually supposed to be an EP. But obviously with so much of everything being on hold, the band decided to just go with a full-blown album. The writing of this one is also quite interesting. All of the songs have been written in completely different ways. So some have been improvised in the studio. Others were written like previous albums where Einar Solberg would write at home and then meet up with a band to kind of work it all out. Some of the songs even included the fans in the writing process, so it's quite a different album from that point of view. And Einar said himself that this is a song-by-song album. Their previous album, Pitfalls, wasn't a concept album, but he said it feels a lot more like one than Aphilion does. It was also recorded at different times and in different studios. Ghost War Studio in Stockholm with longtime collaborator David Castillo at the controls, and then Norwegian Studios Ocean Sound Recordings, and then Cedarberg Studios, the latter with Desk Guru Krister Cedarberg. And then finally, just like Pitfalls, Aphelion was mixed by Adam Noble, who has worked with Placebo, Biffy Clyro, and Nothing But Thieves, to name a few. And then mastered by Robin Schmidt, who also worked with Placebo, 1975 Gaslight Anthem. This album is about mental health and about anxiety, which is something that Einar had been dealing with over the last kind of few years. But he said Pitfalls was the kind of first stage of that, and then it was basically like, oh fuck, like what am I dealing with here? Kind of being deep into anxiety and depression felt like a new thing. On this album, I've gone further into how to deal with it and how to gradually get away from it, at least to the point where it's not dominating your life anymore. So, Leprous. I'm gonna be totally honest here. I've never really been a Leprous obsessive, and I know some people who really worship the ground that this band walk on. I've enjoyed some of their material. I can't say I've ever been like super excited about a new release from the band. I've kind of dipped in and out of their career. Some albums I've liked, and then some for me were maybe a little bit too on the kind of theatrical side, is how I would probably describe it. But that being said, when I heard the first single from this album, which was Running Low, my interest was definitely piqued to hear more on this release. And listen, I'm not even going to beat about the bush here. This
album, not anymore. In any case,
yeah, he's doing the old Joe Rogan thing where he's about to say something like really important and he pulls the mic in.
This album's been living rent free in my head for the last week, like no joke. And weirdly, even though like Einar said this was like written as a kind of song by song album, and it was a bit kind of fragmented in the way that it all came together, for me, this could be one of their most cohesive sounding albums to date. On previous albums, I sometimes found the tone of the album would shift quite a lot, but I didn't get that at all with this release. Each track feels kind of perfectly in balance with the tracks that kind of surround it. They flow fantastically well into each other. Nothing felt like awkward or like weirdly kind of squeezed in on the album. Very fluid album was how I would kind of describe it. It kind of when I was listening to it, it reminded me of a few things. It reminded me a little of the last Ihsahn EP that we reviewed last year. It reminded me a little bit of the latest Katatonia, but also it reminded me weirdly of Maybeshewill. In a few different places, and they all sound like different artists. And Leprous definitely go more kind of full prog in places, but I found a lot of similarities in their style and the delivery on this album. I went back and listened to Pitfalls this week, just to kind of remind myself of that album, and you can definitely hear that Pitfalls and Aphilion share similar ideas musically. They also feel like both albums sounded very kind of grand in their sound. Pitfalls was like if for fans of Leprous, listening to Pitfalls was a bit of a departure from previous albums stylistically, and this album feels like another extension of that. But I also think that Aphelion just feels more complete as an album. I think the ideas and the formulas they've used on this album are far better executed. I like parts of Pitfalls. I admired their departure from the kind of more metal side of their sound. It was definitely a kind of direction that facilitated like separation from a lot of the bands of their genre. But there were areas of it I didn't think they'd fully kind of mastered the balance of yet. This time, however, they've nailed it, 100% nailed it. Those kind of poppier moments, they feel a lot more kind of refined this time around, much more blended. This is probably for me their most varied, their most dynamic, and their most, as I said it already, the most kind of fluid release for a long time, with some really like standout moments on this album. I feel like the songwriting has went up a level for sure, kind of like the last Katatonia album did. You can hear like from that first track, Running Low, the songs are more controlled, everything has its place, and yet they kind of manage to deliver this balance of like catchiness at the same time, make each track really immersive. And they take you through such a like diverse selection of tracks, from like the slow burn kind of ballads like Castaway Angels to these like tight kind of prog rock kind of epics, to straight up pop, to like big kind of like girthy metal moments on the closing track, Nighttime Disguise. But it all works so well together. Like each track just, as I said it already, it flows just so well at the next, and regardless of which style they weave into, it's just delivered perfectly. Highlights for me, track 4, it's got All the Moments, which just is probably my favourite track of the album. I love the rhythm of the track. It's very progressive, a little bit tribal actually, in the, like rhythmically in the verses, but it builds and it builds into this like huge anthemic, like these big huge anthemic chords that are paired with these strings that are absolutely stunning on the album. And the strings for me are just unbelievable. They add this like just grand kind of feeling to the whole album. They don't overuse it, but when they bring them in, it's sublime. Like, and at the same time, I could say a lot of the same things about the keys on the album. The synths, they play a massive part in this album as well, just kind of holding it all together. And then there's the vocals. Wow, like just there are parts. There's a part on All the Moments where the kind of track breaks down just into the piano, strings, and Einar's vocals, and I got total goosebumps, like a pure goosebump moment listening to that track. Vocally, it is stunning, like just all over the album, to be honest. Lyrically, tonally, I love his phrasing on the album, the emotion he puts across. His falsetto is just ridiculously good. Tracks like Out of Here, the falsetto is unbelievable. They're also really infectious. And just as infectious as they are emotional on this album. The melodies on this, they'll get stuck in your head for days. And I think his emotional delivery is 100% believable. Like, and it's something I didn't really get with previous albums from Leprous, but I think this is one of his best performances to date. Other highlight for me would be the Silent Revelation. It has a real kind of like proggy, bass heavy kind of groove to it. But also had these really like delicate, like minimalist moments that created this kind of wide range of dynamics. And then when that chorus kicks in, it just feels like a picture perfect kind of crescendo, you know, transitioning from those like minimalist parts. I just thought it was unreal. And I thought it was a really clever idea going with Nighttime Disguise as a closer. It's the longest track of the album. And you know, that's a lot of times that's the case with a lot of prog albums, but keeping one of your heaviest tracks right to the very end kind of felt like they were like, yeah, we can still do the heavy shit, but we're going to make you wait right to the very end of the album to hear it. And for me, I thought it was an absolutely perfect ending to that album. Just immense for me. Honestly, honestly don't feel like anything I've said about this album is going to do it the justice it deserves. And that's like not even getting how fucking goddamn sexy that production is, but it's an album that you need to experience it for yourself. If you're a fan of the band, or even if you're a bit like me and have kind of dipped in and out of their career, listen to this album. For me personally, I think it's their finest moment. And, you know, a lot of people will go back to their back catalogue, and they've got a few really kind of standout albums. I think this could be one of their best. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Duncan, what did you think?
So I've never heard of them before. So I don't come with any of that baggage and any of the how people regard them or any of that. I actually think the bits. I actually think that the way they trans into that heaviness on the final track to me. If that's how they sounded in the past and that's a tie-in, you know, like they were heavier before and they've tied that in as a way to link it back, then that totally works for me in that capacity. But it's the only track that I didn't necessarily love, whereas I loved the rest of it. I was so glad that this was not all an album of that final track, not because it's poorly written or anything like that. It's just I feel like I've heard that final track done before by other bands, whereas I actually feel like the rest of this album feels genuinely fresh, endearing, rewarding, encouraging, you know, optimistic, pessimistic, emotional. It covers the gambit like really, 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 really well. Production obviously aids that. This is once again, don't read the press stuff. So, like, you know, I'm glad that I didn't, because I didn't know that this had been recorded all over the place. You would never tell. This sounds as seamless. Like, had you told me that they'd hold away for a month writing this in a recording studio, I would have believed that. You know, like, there's no way to tell that apart. Also, the variety of which they've approached this from a songwriting perspective. Once again, I commend them for that. I don't necessarily think that's evident on the release, but that's coming from the background of having not listened to any of the previous stuff, so I don't know how much of a marked departure it is. What this has, more than anything, is an emotional core specifically through the vocal delivery that you're just not going to hear in anything else this year. There are moments that are haunting, like absolutely haunting to listen to, in the way that he delivers his vocal lines. You were talking about the falsetto. It's like hairs on the back of the neck stand up when he hits certain notes. I found myself smiling at certain little, you know, vocal phrasing that he was using. I thought that sounded like incredible. And the music behind it is just there as a vehicle to let this guy do what he can do. See, if I could sing like this, I wouldn't be here, right? I'd be on fucking stage. This guy is born to sing, is born to perform, and is absolutely incredible. The composition of the songs is really interesting as well. It's not all like, right, so here's your standard ballad, and now here we're moving into the proggy section. They really do mix up things, but it's like you're saying, Dave, at no point did I feel that the album was disjointed. There's a nice flow all the way right through. It's a very, very, very easy listen. This is about 56, 57 minutes long, and it just flows right through it. Very, very, very easy listen. It reminded me, I know you've mentioned a lot of bands already. There's a maybe, I was going to say lesser known. They're a big band, but maybe in metal circles, they're slightly lesser known. Danish band called Carport North that I absolutely love. And whilst they're now a massive arena band and all the rest, and they could be writing songs for Eurovision if they wanted, where they started originally was this kind of weird kind of alt-rock band that just mixed a lot in there, and vocally that's what shone for me. Is their vocalist has a very haunting and at times very engaging voice with great melodies, and that's what I got here. Like, every single song has a chorus that stays with you afterwards, that you're humming 5 minutes after, 10 minutes, 2 days after, 3 days after. And I've said before, to be able to write a song that does that, just one song in an album, then you're kind of capturing lightning in a bottle. To do that in an entire album is a fucking gift that very few people have. So I don't have the background with the band. I don't have the attachment to previous releases. This to me was a fresh listen to a band I'd never listened to before, and I think this album is fucking incredible.
Nice. Kyle, from Norway, what did you make of this one from Leprous?
It's very Norwegian, isn't it? Actually, it sounds like nothing I've heard before. But it's very proggy and stuff.
Yeah.
The thing is, I don't know, because like by the end of the album, it was 50-something minutes. But by the end of it, I was thinking, oh, thank God that's over. But I don't know why, because I listened to it again and again. I'm like, musicianship is excellent. The songwriting is excellent. There's the vocal delivery, which is fantastic. And there's all the production is really good. It's all natural. It's very clean, but it's very natural.
Yeah.
And all of this stuff comes together, but I still just didn't connect with it really. And I don't know why. I can't really say why. I felt the flow. I felt the honesty in the vocal performance, but I think I just don't get it. I don't know. I don't have a bad thing to say about it. But on the other hand, I'm just like, every time I get to the end, I'm like, thank fuck. And I don't know why. I thought the last song was, honestly, it was one of my favorite ones because obviously it's a bit more heavy and I'm into that stuff. But I really did appreciate everything that they'd put through on this album. I think maybe what it was the falsetto and the use of it. And I just don't connect that because it reminds me a bit of The Darkness. And I just can't take it seriously. So I'm like, if you're singing like that, it just sounds too operatic and it's a bit too theatrical. And I just don't connect with that very well. So that could well be it thinking about it. But yeah, I don't really have a bad thing. It's just a really good album. It's fantastic on every front. I mean, there's no... Yeah. It's not like, I mean, there's a thing in Norwegian music right now where everybody's copying everybody else and it's very bland and boring and fucking crap. And the production is far too perfect and far too clean. But they haven't done that at all. And it's really good. Obviously, they recorded it here and there and everywhere, but home recording stuff is so good nowadays. You can do that and no one will tell. And this is the proof of that. So I don't really have anything bad to say about this at all, except for I didn't really connect with it on a personal level. But I mean, I can't score it badly for that because then I'd just be a massive asshole.
there's a few that in recent memory, like I'm talking in the last 10 years, there's a handful of bands where the vocalists alone like do something that genuinely makes me kind of almost feel like I'm losing my breath a little bit from a melody perspective. And it's in this album. It was definitely in the Katatonia album last year, which I think we said at the time was maybe one of the finest, vocally delivered albums I've heard in a long time. Carnival are a great example of that. Carnival with Themata. The first time I heard that album, he hits a couple of notes on that you're literally just going, oh, whoa. She's like kind of takes you back. And this album just doesn't have like one or two of them. It's full of them. It's just like it's almost overwhelming at times. And I think like getting that backstory that you're saying, Dave, specifically on his struggles with mental health, is as using music as a way to kind of parse out in his brain and to give himself some level of catharsis with that. It totally comes through. It all makes sense. This is why I should read the stuff that comes with the albums. But it all makes sense once explained by Dave. But I thought I might be the only one that I find the heaviness on the last track completely needless because the rest of it, they don't need it. This is one of the few bands that I've listened to in a while like that. You physically don't need the heaviness at the end. It's not overpowering.
You don't need it at all, but I liked it at the end because it's like, oh fuck, there's a great riff right there, It's something that I can latch onto.
It's full of great riffs.
Yeah.
It's full of great riffs.
It's just that last song, it was like the first few minutes of that song was like, oh yeah. And after all that, heavy stuff you've been, not heavy, but heavy, lyrical stuff you've been through, and then they come in with something that just makes you go, it's good. It's a good
it's the last. We've said it before. It's the last track in an album is supposed to be used most of the time to do something different from the rest. So I get why it's there, and like I say, if I listen to their earlier stuff, it probably makes a lot more context. But I'd like to me, they don't need a distortion pedal. Fuck distortion. Get in the bin. Let's keep doing that. Him and a piano, some strings in the background. Notice how I didn't mention the synths because I thought I could literally shoot my load talking about the synths like for the next 20 minutes about how this is how you use synths in an album, because this is how you use synths in an album. But I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Apart from when I just did it. But I'm not going to do it.
Okay. Ratings for this new one from Leprous. in case you hadn't guessed, I have nothing negative to say about this. I couldn't find anything to dislike about it. Nothing. And I've listened to this, I don't know how many times I've listened to this over the last week. An unhealthy amount of times I've listened to it, and I think it's stunning front to back. I went through each track one by one thinking, like, is there anything there I would change or would they do different? Couldn't find anything. Nothing at all. 5 out of 5 for me. Duncan?
Yeah, this is a 4.5 for me. I think this is an absolutely incredible album. I think if you get through 2021 and you haven't listened to this album, one, you're living under a rock, and two, you have cheated yourself out of one of the finer things that this year is going to give you. So,
yep. Kyle?
I'm going to come in at a 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. Nice. This one drops on August 27th on Inside Out Music. If you want to check out the band, it's facebook.com/Leprous Band. I'll put a link below to their Facebook and any pre-orders for the album. Check out the album when it comes out. There's been a couple of singles. Check those out. Let us know what you think. Put some comments in below. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. That is the review. Thank you for checking it out. Much appreciated. We'll be back with another review very soon. But until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
bye, everyone.
See you later.